Hello, I am Milo. This video did not find you by accident. Something within you, deeper than thought itself, has guided you here to this exact moment, as if your unconscious has been quietly preparing for a shift. Subtle, almost imperceptible, yet impossible to reverse. You, traveler of the late night, have you ever startled yourself with your own actions? A sentence escaping your lip as if it spoke itself. A surge of anger, a wave of fear, a choice repeated again and again, even after you promised you would change. And you ask yourself, why am I like this? According to Jung, this is not weakness. These are archetypes, invisible patterns that have lived within your psyche long before you ever found words to name them. They silently shape the way you love, the way you fear, the way you search for meaning in your life. And tonight, together, we will look directly into those mysterious inner blueprints. And right now, in this moment before sleep, you are stepping through the narrow gate between consciousness and the unconscious. This is the living bridge where transformation occurs without force. It works with a speed that can feel almost frightening, precisely because you are not trying to control it. You are simply allowing it. If you sense something shifting within you, leave a quiet sentence in the comments. I allow this turning point to unfold naturally, not for the algorithm, not for anyone else, only to seal this intention into your unconscious. Now let your body become a place of gentle arrival. Release your shoulders. Soften every muscle in your face. Feel your breath moving naturally like a quiet stream. You are safe to let go completely. Trust this. You are not becoming someone new. You are remembering who you have always been, and perhaps in that still and settling space, you drift into sleep. And that is perfectly all right, more than all right, because you are enough. And you have always been enough. Part 1. The shock of autopilot mode. There are strange moments in your life. Moments when after a sentence slips out of your mouth, you suddenly pause and ask yourself, was that really me just now? You replay your own actions as if watching a slow motion film, and a quiet shock rises within you. Not because what you did was terribly wrong, but because it felt unfamiliar, as if some hidden current beneath the surface had moved your hand, pulled the strings of your words, made you react before you could think. At times, that sensation can be frightening. It feels as though you have been possessed by a part of yourself you never knew existed. Carl Jung touched this territory when he wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." Collected Works, Volume 10. When the unconscious remains unrecognized, it does not disappear. It quietly steers your life, and you mistake its influence for destiny. What you call a hot temper, a weak nature, or a habit you cannot break may simply be the operation of archetypes, innate psychological patterns that have lived within you long before you ever learned to name yourself. The shock of autopilot mode is not in truth a sign that something is broken. It is the moment you catch yourself living according to an old program. You believe you are freely choosing, and then you realize you are repeating a script. Jung called these deep structures archetypes, describing them as primordial patterns of the collective psyche. In the Archetypes and the Collective Unconscious, C.W. Nainai, he wrote, "Archetypes are by definition factors and motifs that arrange the psychic elements into certain images. They are not fixed images themselves, but tendencies that organize your experience into familiar stories. So when you react fiercely to criticism, when you repeat a pattern of dependent love, when you avoid opportunity out of fear of failure, perhaps an archetype is rising within you. Perhaps it is the abandoned one, the warrior, the wounded child, or the betrayer. These tendencies are not your enemies. They are empty seats within the psyche, waiting to be filled with awareness through observation. Jung emphasized that the unconscious is not moral in itself. It is neither good nor evil. He wrote, "The unconscious is not just evil by nature. It is also the source of the highest good." C.W. 7. This means that the very energy that drives you to react unconsciously is the same energy that can grant you creative power and renewal. The shock of realizing you have been living on autopilot is in fact a doorway. It is the moment you see the underground wiring instead of merely being pulled along by it. What matters is not resisting these tendencies, but beginning to observe them. When you realize you have just acted like someone else, instead of drowning in shame or self-blame pause, the feeling of not understanding yourself may dissolve if you allow it to exist without judgment. Jung once said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. CW 13. Enlightenment does not come from striving to be flawless. It comes from the courage to look into the shadow, into that very automatic reaction. And here there is something deeply soothing. You are not insane. You are not two-faced. You are not a fraud. You are carrying structures older than your personal consciousness. Just as a bird is born knowing how to build a nest, you were born with tendencies to love, to fear, to defend, to seek meaning. When an archetype rises, it is like an electric current moving through your nervous system, faster than reason. But the moment you begin to recognize it, you shift from being controlled to becoming the observer. Imagine your mind as an ocean. On the surface are waves, thoughts, words, actions. Beneath are slow but powerful currents. Autopilot mode is when those hidden currents pull your vessel without your awareness. But the instant you feel that pull, you have already placed your hand upon the wheel. Not to fight the ocean, but to understand it. In this moment, you may allow yourself to relax. There is no need to fix everything immediately. No need to change at once. Only to notice. Feel your body sitting or lying down. Let your breath slow. Allow the initial confusion to soften into gentle curiosity. The underground currents are no longer monsters beneath the bed. They are energy waiting to be integrated. Thus, the shock of autopilot becomes an invitation. It awakens you from the illusion that you are completely in control, yet at the same time opens the possibility that you can live more consciously, not by extinguishing the unconscious, but by bringing the light of awareness into it. And each time you notice yourself being carried away by an old tendency, instead of sinking into shame, you may whisper softly to yourself, "I am learning to see." Because from the moment you see, you have already begun to change. Not through violence, not through forced effort, but through presence. And in that presence, autopilot mode slowly yields to another way of living, a way in which you are no longer dragged through the dark, but begin to walk in the light of awareness. Part 2. The innate psychological scaffolding. When you begin to recognize those moments of autopilot mode within yourself, when you suddenly startle at a reaction that feels both deeply familiar and strangely foreign, another question quietly rises. If I am not fully in control of myself, then what is controlling me? And deeper still, am I merely the product of a deprived childhood, a fractured family, or a society filled with pressure? This is the second fear, quieter yet heavier. The fear that your personality is nothing more than an accident, that your wounds have programmed you, that you are the outcome of a long chain of past mistakes. If that were true, then where is freedom? If you are only the product of circumstances, do you still possess the capacity to become something else? Carl Jung did not view the human being in such a pessimistic way. He did not deny the influence of family education or trauma. But he went further. He proposed that beneath all of these influences, there exists a deeper structure, older, more enduring, an innate psychological scaffolding that every human being carries into life. In the Archetypes and the Collective Unconscious, Jung wrote, "The archetype is a tendency to form representations of a motif, representations that can vary a great deal in detail without losing their basic pattern." CW9I. An archetype is not a personal memory. It is a tendency, a foundational structure, an invisible framework. He stated even more clearly, archetypes are the psychic counterpart of instinct. CW8. If instinct is the biological force that enables a bird to build its nest, that guides an infant toward the mother's breast, then archetypes are the psychic counterparts of those instincts. They shape the way you love, the way you fear, the way you search for meaning, not because someone taught you, but because you were born carrying those patterns within you. Pause for a moment and feel that. It means you are not a blank sheet written upon by others. You are not an empty system waiting to be programmed by society. You are a living structure already supported by inner pillars. Just as a building does not arise from nothing, your psyche was not constructed from zero. There are innate skeletal frameworks that were present long before praise or criticism, long before your earliest failures. And this is where fear begins to dissolve. If your personality were only the result of misguided upbringing, then you would be entirely determined by the past. But if you carry within you structures older than your personal history, then you stand upon a deeper foundation. Jung believed that the collective unconscious is the inheritance of the entire evolutionary history of humanity's psyche. He wrote, "The collective unconscious contains the whole spiritual heritage of mankind's evolution. CW8. Let that sentence settle within you. The whole spiritual heritage of mankind's evolution. It means that within you live patterns tested across thousands of years of survival. The archetype of the mother is not merely your memory of your own mother. It is the universal image of care, protection, nourishment. The archetype of the hero is not simply a childhood story. It is the inner drive that compels you to face challenge. You were not programmed incorrectly. You were structured. And that structure is not a prison. It is scaffolding. Scaffolding supports. It does not force you to build a single kind of house, but it makes building possible. Without scaffolding, the structure collapses. Without archetypes, the psyche would dissolve into chaos. The fear that you are broken often arises because you identify with distorted expressions of archetypes. But distortion is not essence. It is the misdirection of a structure originally designed to sustain. Just as a continental shelf supports an island, these ancient structures support your inner life. The island may endure storms, earthquakes, erosion, but the geological foundation beneath remains. Imagine your body lying down. Your spine is supported by the bed. The bed is supported by the floor. The floor is supported by the foundation. The foundation is supported by layers of earth formed over millions of years. In the same way, your psyche is supported by layers older than personal memory. When you understand this, a quiet steadiness begins to spread. You are no longer merely a victim of upbringing. You are no longer only the result of trauma. You are a living being, carrying the primordial blueprints of life. And something remarkable happens when you feel that foundation. You fear yourself less. Instead of asking, "What is wrong with me?" you begin to ask, "Which archetype is seeking expression through me?" This shift is subtle yet profound. It moves you from the position of the condemned to the position of the observer. From "I am broken" to "I am operating through a deeper structure I have not yet fully understood." And in that understanding, you begin to relax. Not because every problem disappears, but because you no longer feel as though you are standing on hollow ground. The innate psychological scaffolding does not bind you. It supports you. You are not the product of a cruel fate. You are a temporary expression of an ancient structure seeking to complete itself through you. And tonight, as you lie down, you may allow your body to sink just a little deeper. Feel as though beneath your soul lies a solid, continental shelf, unshaken, unjudging, uncollapsing. You are supported. You have always been supported. And in that support, you begin to trust that you are not an accident. You are part of a design far greater than yourself. Part 3. The Mask and Social Exhaustion. When you begin to sense that you are not a psychological accident, that beneath unconscious reactions and personal fractures, there exists an ancient scaffolding supporting you. Another question quietly emerges. If I have such a deep foundation, why am I still so tired? If I am structured to live, to love, to exist, why does each day feel like performing in a role that never ends? This is where we encounter the mask. There is a common pain rarely named the exhaustion of having to be in character. You are the good child, always agreeable, the diligent employee, never complaining, the positive friend, the understanding wife, the strong man. You belong to these roles so completely that others cannot imagine you otherwise. Yet inside you may be breaking apart. A part of you may whisper, "Does anyone see who I truly am?" Carl Jung called this mask the persona. In 2 essays on analytical psychology, CW7, he wrote, "The persona is that which in reality one is not, but which oneself, as well as others, think one is." Pause with that sentence. The persona is what you are not in reality, yet what both you and others believe you to be. Persona is not simple falseness. It is a necessary structure. It is how you adapt to society. Jung explained further. The persona is a complicated system of relations between individual consciousness and society, a kind of mask designed on the one hand to make a definite impression upon others, and on the other, to conceal the true nature of the individual. CW7. A complex system of relations between individual consciousness and society. A mask designed both to make an impression and to conceal the true nature of the individual. You need a persona. Without it, you could not live within a community. No one can survive if every primitive impulse is exposed. Persona allows you to adjust yourself to circumstances. It is an adaptive archetype, a subtle form of psychological survival. The problem is not that you have a persona. The problem begins when you believe you are the mask. When you identify completely with the role, you slowly forget the rest of yourself. Behind the good child may live an angry child. Behind the diligent employee, a tired human being. Behind the professional smile, a sorrow that has never been named. And this is where exhaustion begins. You do not merely work. You must maintain an image. You do not simply communicate. You must manage your expression. You do not just live. You must hold the role. Persona consumes energy. Every layer of mask is a subtle, muscular tension, a slight tightening around the eyes, a clenching of the jaw, a curated smile, a sentence filtered through layers of inner censorship. Jung warned that total identification with the persona leads to disconnection from the unconscious. He wrote, "Identification with the persona leads to an impoverishment of the personality." CW7. An impoverishment of personality, not because you lack talent, but because you are living within only a narrow fragment of yourself. Each day becomes a stage. You no longer feel natural. You respond according to script. You say what should be said. You laugh when appropriate. And by evening, you are tired without knowing why. Social exhaustion does not arise merely from working hard. It arises from holding a role for too long. Yet here is the deep comfort. The persona is not your enemy. It is not something to destroy. It becomes dangerous only when you forget that it is a mask. Like an actor who knows they are performing, you can wear a persona without losing yourself. The difference lies in awareness. When you know you are playing a role, you are no longer swallowed by it. And now comes the most important movement release. Imagine yourself alone in a quiet room, no one watching, no expectations, no roles to maintain. You do not need to impress. You do not need to please. Imagine removing the masks one by one. The good child is set down. The diligent employee is set down. The strong one is set down. The "I'm fine" is set down. Feel your facial muscles soften, your jaw relax, your forehead smooth, your shoulders drop. You are not losing yourself. You are returning to the part that does not need to perform. The emptiness that appears is not as frightening as you imagined. It is not void. It is space unshaped by expectation. There, you do not need to be in character. You only need to be present. And something remarkable happens when you allow yourself to remove the mask in safety. You do not become irresponsible. You do not become selfish. You simply become more real. The persona will still exist, Tomorrow, you will go to work. You will speak, adapt, fulfill roles. But a subtle shift occurs. You know it is a role. You know you are larger than the mask. This knowledge does not make you rebel against society. It simply prevents you from being consumed by it. From the solid foundation of the innate scaffolding we explored before, you now learn to distinguish between the supporting structure and the adaptive mask. One is the ancient blueprint. The other is the temporary social image. When you know this, exhaustion begins to dissolve, not because the world changes, but because you no longer force yourself to be a role 24 hours a day. You can wear the persona when needed, and remove it when safe. And right now, you are safe to remove it. Let your face become neutral. No expression required. No impression necessary. Just a human being breathing. Behind the mask, you are still there. You never disappeared. You were never broken. You were only waiting to be seen. Part 4. The echo of the collective unconscious. When you dare to remove the persona, even if only for a private moment, something unexpected may arise. No more roles, no more eyes upon you, no more expectations to fulfill. And yet, instead of immediate relief, you may encounter a strange emptiness, a silence so deep it feels almost unsettling. And within that silence, another question emerges. If I am not the role, then who am I? And where do I belong in this vast world? Here is where the fourth wound appears. The feeling of being misplaced in a modern world filled with machines, screens, and superficial conversations. You can stand in the middle of a crowd and still feel alone. You can have hundreds of connections and still sense that no one truly touches your deeper layers. This emptiness is not merely a lack of communication. It is the feeling of being severed from something older, something larger. Carl Jung named that deeper layer the collective unconscious. In the structure and dynamics of the psyche, he wrote, "The collective unconscious is a part of the psyche which can be negatively distinguished from a personal unconscious by the fact that it does not owe its existence to personal experience." CW 8. The collective unconscious is not formed by your personal memories. It does not arise from childhood, family, or individual events. It existed before you. It is the shared psychological foundation inherited by all human beings. Jung went further. The collective unconscious contains the whole spiritual heritage of mankind's evolution. CW 8. Let that sentence resonate within you once more. The whole spiritual heritage of mankind's evolution. It means that when you feel lonely, you are carrying within you patterns that have existed for millions of years. You are not an isolated individual thrown randomly into the universe. You are a temporary expression of a psychological current that has flowed through countless generations. Imagine your soul as a museum. Not a museum of lifeless artifacts, but of living symbols. Within it live the image of the nurturing mother, the hero who overcomes trials, the wanderer searching for meaning, the wise elder whispering in the dark. These images do not belong only to you. They belong to humanity, and you carry them. When you dream of water, of oceans, of deep forests, of ancient faces, these may not be mere products of personal imagination. Jung observed that similar symbols appear in the dreams and myths of entirely different cultures. He wrote, "In addition to our immediate consciousness, which is of a thoroughly personal nature, there exists a second psychic system of a collective, universal, and impersonal nature, which is identical in all individuals." CW 9. A second psychic system, universal, impersonal, identical in all individuals. So when you feel out of place in modern society, it may not be because you do not fit. It may be the echo of a deeper layer, reminding you that you belong to something greater than social roles. Modern loneliness partly arises because we live only on the surface of consciousness. We communicate in information, yet forget that beneath information are symbols. Beneath language are images. Beneath the individual is the collective. The collective unconscious is not a distant mystical concept. It is the reality that all human beings share fundamental psychological structures. When you are moved by a story of sacrifice, when tears come at the sight of a mother holding her child, when you are drawn to the journey of a hero, this is not merely personal preference. It is archetypal resonance. You are not alone in your experience. You are simply experiencing it in your own way. And here, a gentle comfort begins to spread. If your soul is a museum of evolutionary heritage, then you are never truly separate. Every fear, every longing, every dream you carry has echoed in millions of others. You may not know them, you may never meet them, but you share the same foundation. Imagine the collective unconscious as a vast ocean. On the surface are islands, each individual with their own name, history, and story. From above, the islands appear separate, but beneath the water, they are connected by the same continental shelf. You are an island, but you are not drifting. As you lie down tonight, imagine your body settling like an island resting upon the ocean floor. You are not falling. You are supported by a deep foundation unseen by the eye. Let your shoulders soften. Let your back release. Let your breath slow. The ocean is not loud. It does not need to prove itself. It simply exists, vast, ancient, enduring. In the same way, the collective unconscious does not demand that you fully understand it. You only need to know that it is there, that beneath personal loneliness lies a shared psychological network connecting you to humanity. You are not lost in a mechanical world. You are simply living on the surface of a much deeper sea. And when you allow yourself to sink a little, not to disappear, but to connect, you may feel a quiet sense of belonging. No one needs to confirm it. No one needs to witness it. It is simply the feeling that you are supported by something older than your fear. You are not separate. You are part of that current. And within that current, you may rest. Part 5. Befriending the brother in the dark. When you begin to feel that you are not separate, when you start to trust that beneath the personal surface, there is a shared ocean of humanity. Another depth slowly reveals itself. For within that ocean, there are not only noble symbols or gentle protective images, there are also murky currents, creatures you would rather not name. And as you lie down, feeling supported by the collective unconscious, you may suddenly realize there is a part of you that you are still avoiding. That part is the shadow. There is a quiet but persistent pain, the fear that if others saw the whole of who you are, they would leave. You may accept your small flaws, but deeper still are things you hesitate to admit envy when someone else succeeds secret satisfaction at another's failure, weakness hidden behind strength, anger suppressed until it turns bitter. These parts are pushed into the dark because you believe they do not deserve to exist. Carl Jung called this rejected region the shadow. In Ion, he wrote, "The shadow is a moral problem. It challenges the whole ego personality." C.W. An, II, moral problem. not because it is evil in a religious sense, but because it forces the ego to confront what it does not want to see. Facing the shadow is uncomfortable. It shakes the carefully constructed image you hold of yourself. Yet Jung also emphasized, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. CW 13. You do not become enlightened by imagining light, but by bringing darkness into awareness. Here a gentle relief begins to emerge. The shadow is not a demon. It is not an enemy sent to destroy you. It is denied energy, repressed vitality, frozen instinct, silenced out of fear of judgment. When you try to become a perfectly good person, you may unknowingly bury your assertiveness. When you strive to be gentle, you may suppress your ability to say no. When you wish to be selfless, you may deny your legitimate needs. The shadow does not contain only envy or anger. It also holds unrecognized talent. It carries creative energies you were once taught were not appropriate. Jung wrote, "The shadow is 90% pure gold," referenced in CW 92G seminars, and notes, 90% pure gold. This sounds paradoxical. How could the parts you are most ashamed of contain gold? But consider this: what happens when you suppress anger for years? The energy does not vanish. It transforms into fatigue, depression, or sudden explosions. But when recognized and integrated, that same energy becomes healthy boundaries. It becomes strength in self-protection. The shadow is treasure locked away, and to open that door requires courage. Integrating the shadow is the first step in the process of individuation. Not conquering the world, not achieving success, but daring to look at what you have rejected in yourself. Perhaps even now, as you read these words, an image flickers in your mind, a memory that makes you uncomfortable, an emotion you continue to avoid. Let it remain there. No need to analyze. No need to fix. Imagine the shadow not as a monster under the bed, but as an old companion sitting quietly in the corner of the room. This companion does not scream, does not attack. It simply waits to be seen. You may offer it the faintest smile, not to approve of every harmful behavior, but to acknowledge its existence. This acceptance does not make you worse. It makes you whole. When you deny the shadow, it operates unconsciously, and governs behavior. When you recognize it, you reclaim your energy. The fear that you are defective begins to dissolve. In its place arises the understanding that you carry parts not yet integrated. You do not need to eliminate the shadow. You only need to befriend it. Imagine your inner room softening. The light is neither harsh nor dim. In the corner, the shadow sits, not as frightening as you once imagined. You move closer. No drama, no confrontation, just presence. As you sit beside it, you may sense something unexpected. It does not want to destroy you. It wants recognition. It wants to be brought into the circle of consciousness instead of being cast outside. And in that moment, some repressed energy begins to return to you. Your shoulders feel slightly lighter, your breath a little deeper. You are no longer fighting yourself. From the vast ocean of the collective unconscious, you have entered darker waters and discovered that darkness is not a bottomless abyss. It is part of the same ocean. You do not need to become perfect. You need only become whole. And wholeness means that light and shadow coexist. Let the image of the companion in the corner remain seated beside you. No judgment, no forced change. Just two parts of the same human being finally seeing one another. Within that, seeing a new kind of peace begins to form. Not the peace of avoidance, but the peace of acceptance. And as you drift towards sleep, you may no longer fear the dark as you once did, because now you know it is part of you. Part 6. The Dance of Anima and Animus. When you have dared to sit beside your shadow, when you no longer tremble before the parts you once rejected, a subtle shift begins to unfold as repressed energy is reclaimed. Your heart is no longer divided between the good me and the bad me. And yet, from an even deeper layer, another longing quietly emerges. It is no longer the fear of being exposed. It is a sense of incompleteness, a feeling that even as you understand yourself more fully, you are still searching for something outside you to make you whole. Perhaps you have believed that somewhere there exists a perfect other half, someone who would understand you completely, fill the emptiness in your heart, heal old wounds. You loved intensely, then felt disappointed. You placed expectations upon another, only to realize they could not embody the image you unconsciously longed for. And after each experience, you asked yourself, why do I keep searching for something that does not seem to exist? Carl Jung suggested that the answer does not lie outside, but within the inner structure of the psyche. In Ion, he wrote, "The anima is the feminine image in the male psyche, and the animus is the masculine image in the female psyche." CW9II. The anima is the feminine image within a man's soul. The animus is the masculine image within a woman's soul. But these are not simplistic social notions of gender. They are deep archetypal polarities that exist within every human being. If you are male, the anima may appear as emotion intuition, the capacity for deep connection. If you are female, the animus may manifest as reason, decisiveness, inner strength. Yet, when these archetypes remain unconscious, they are often projected outward. A man may see his anima in a woman and believe she is his soul itself. A woman may see her animus in a man and believe he alone can make her whole. Jung warned that such projection is the root of many romantic tragedies. He wrote, "Every mother and every beloved is forced to become the bearer and embodiment of this omnipresent and timeless image." CW92. The person you love is not merely themselves. They are burdened with carrying an ancient image your unconscious seeks. And no human being can live indefinitely under the weight of an archetype. Thus, the pain does not arise because you loved the wrong person. It arises because you searched outside for what belongs to your inner structure. The inner union of anima and animus, what Jung referred to as the syzygy, is not a romantic fantasy. It is a stage in the process of individuation. As you begin to recognize and integrate the inner opposite within you, you no longer love to fill a void. You love from a place of emerging wholeness. You do not seek another to complete you. You enter relationship as someone who has begun reconciling their inner polarities. This integration does not occur through intellectual effort. It unfolds through listening. When a man allows himself to feel without shame, when a woman allows herself to speak her inner truth without fear of judgment, when each person acknowledges that both polarities live within them. Jung suggested that this reconciliation of opposites is essential for spiritual maturation. Only when inner opposites are brought into harmony does the ego cease to be torn in two. Imagine within you a sacred pair, not two separate beings, but two complementary energies. They are not arguing. They are not competing. They are dancing. The dance is slow, gentle, unadorned. When anima and animus come into harmony, a subtle balance spreads through your whole being. the heart is no longer overly fragile, the intellect no longer rigid. You are no longer leaning entirely into one pole while rejecting the other. And something remarkable happens as inner union begins your outer relationships shift. You no longer demand that others rescue you. You are not devastated when they fail to meet unconscious expectations, because you have begun a dialogue with the part of you that once felt missing. Let this image deepen. In your inner space, two figures stand facing one another. Not to compete, but to recognize. They move closer. No urgency, no drama, only acknowledgement. You do not need to force this process. It is not a project to complete. It is a dance that unfolds as you allow yourself to be whole. Let your shoulders soften. Let your chest open gently. Let your breath move evenly in and out. The sense of lack that once drove you to search frantically outside begins to quiet. Not because you no longer desire love, but because you are no longer seeking it to fill an absence. You are not becoming someone new. You are remembering the balanced structure that was always within you. Anima and animus are not distant halves. They have always been present, waiting to be recognized. And as the inner dance begins, you may feel your entire being grow lighter. No harsh conflict, no silent tearing apart, only a quiet harmony. Within you, the battlefield becomes a dance floor, and upon that floor, you are not alone. You are completing yourself from within. Part 7. The Symphony of the Brain. As the dance between anima and animus grows more harmonious, as you are no longer torn between emotion and reason, softness and strength, another layer of understanding opens. For even this inner union is not merely a vague, mystical experience. It unfolds within a living body, within a brain of flesh and bone. And perhaps somewhere inside you, a quiet doubt still lingers. Is all of this nothing more than chemistry? Am I merely a biological machine telling myself a story? This is a deeply modern anxiety. In a world shaped by science and data, it is easy to feel reduced to firing neurons, a network of proteins, synapses, and hormones. If every feeling is only dopamine and cortisol, if every memory is merely neural circuitry, then what remains of the soul? what remains of meaning. Carl Jung did not deny biology. He was a psychiatrist trained in a rigorous scientific tradition. Yet he did not accept the reductionist view that psyche is merely a byproduct of the brain. In the structure and dynamics of the psyche, he wrote, "Psyche and matter are contained in one and the same world, and moreover are in continuous contact with one another." CW 8. Psyche and matter are not separate realms. They belong to the same world and are in continuous contact. This opens a different perspective. The brain is not the prison of the soul. It is its instrument. Imagine your brain as a symphony orchestra. At the deepest level lie ancient structures, the brainstem, the limbic system, where survival instincts, fear, and longing are activated. These parts of the brain existed millions of years before human beings could think in language. They carry archetypal signals as such pure tendencies, without specific images, raw energy before form. When these signals rise to the cortex, where imagination and language operate, they are clothed in images, stories, symbols. You do not merely feel fear. You dream of falling into an abyss. You do not simply long. You imagine a particular person, a particular journey. Jung described the archetype as such as something that cannot be directly represented. In the archetypes and the collective unconscious, he wrote, "The archetype as such is a hypothetical and irrepresentable model." CW 9. The archetype in itself cannot be directly imaged. It becomes visible only when the individual mind dresses it in symbol and narrative. So rather than being a mere chemical machine, you are the meeting point of three layers: ancient biology, archetypal unconscious, and personal consciousness. This is what we might call the trilogical interplay, a threefold interaction. The brainstem sends primordial signals. The collective unconscious provides the patterns. The cortex shapes the story of your life. No layer operates independently. When you love, it is not only hormones. It is the resonance of survival instinct, the archetype of anima or animus, and the personal story you tell about love. When you fear, it is not only adrenaline, it is evolutionary memory, symbolic imagery of darkness, and the meaning you assign to the experience. Jung emphasized that the human being is a symbolic creature. He wrote, "Man uses the spoken or written word to express the meaning of what he wants to convey." See W9I. But before words, there are images. And before images, there are tendencies. You are not imprisoned in your brain. You are living within a complex symphony in which each layer plays its part. If only the brainstem existed, you would live as pure instinct. If only the cortex existed, you would become a cold, rational machine. If archetypes operated without consciousness, you would be driven blindly. But when the three layers harmonize, you become fully human. Here lies the comfort. Biology does not negate meaning. It is the foundation through which meaning emerges. Pause and feel your body now. Perhaps you sense a gentle warmth along your spine, your autonomic nervous system adjusting, your heartbeat slowing as you relax, your ancient brain sending signals of safety. At the same time, in your cortex, images arise: an ocean, a dance floor, a quiet companion in the corner. These images are not random. They are the pathway through which archetypal energies move through neural structures and become conscious experience. You are not a soulless machine. You are the meeting place of matter and symbol. When the thought appears, "I am only chemistry," remember that the very capacity to think such a thought is part of the symphony. The brain does not cancel the soul. It is the medium through which the soul expresses itself. Let this understanding spread gently through you. Feel subtle currents along your spine. Sense the balance between the ancient and the modern within you, between instinct and reflection. There is no war inside, only rhythm. You are not imprisoned in chemistry. You are being played by and playing a complex symphony in which you are both instrument and listener. And as you relax more deeply, you may realize the brain is not a cage. It is a violin. And you are playing your own music. Part 8. The world as mirror. When you begin to understand that you are not merely a biological machine, but a symphony in which ancient instinct, collective archetype, and personal consciousness intertwine, another important realization slowly emerges. If the images and stories you tell about your life arise from such deep interaction, then is the world you see outside truly entirely outside? Or does it also bear the imprint of the deeper layers within you? There is a very familiar pain, unreasonable anger toward others. You may react intensely to a small remark. You may find someone irritating in an inexplicable way. You may believe the world around you is filled with selfish, careless, even threatening people. And in those moments, everything feels hostile, as if you are living in an environment constantly working against you. Carl Jung observed this phenomenon and called it projection. In Ion, he wrote, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." CWGII. Everything that irritates you in others can lead you to an understanding of yourself. That sentence may stir resistance. It is easier to believe that the problem is them. Jung did not deny that others can behave wrongly. He simply pointed out that the intensity of your reaction often exceeds the situation itself. And that intensity reveals something. In the Archetypes and the Collective Unconscious, he wrote, "Projection is one of the commonest psychic phenomena. Everything that is unconscious in ourselves, we discover in our neighbor." CW9. Everything that is unconscious in ourselves, we discover in our neighbor. This means that when a part of you remains unrecognized, especially the shadow or an unintegrated archetype, it will seek expression through others. You may not see your own envy, but you notice how jealous someone else is. You may not acknowledge your suppressed ambition, yet you despise blatant ambition in another. Projection is not a moral failure. It is a natural psychological mechanism. The unconscious seeks visibility. And if you cannot see it within, you will see it without. The pain here is the feeling of being attacked by the world. The relief lies in recognizing that you can reclaim your energy. When you believe that the source of your discomfort lies entirely outside you, hand over your power to circumstance. You wait for others to change so that you can feel peace. But when you begin to ask, what within me resonates with this reaction, you return to your center. This does not mean self-blame. There is no accusation here, only curiosity. Remember that the archetype, as such as we explored earlier, has no fixed image. It seeks manifestation. When someone triggers a powerful reaction in you, it may be an archetype within you, finding a screen upon which to project itself. Imagine a cinema. The film is not on the screen. It comes from the projector behind. But if you forget the projector, you assume the screen is the source of the images. Jung wrote in Psychological Types, "Projections change the world into the replica of one's own unknown face." CW6. Projection transforms the world into a replica of your own unknown face. When you grasp this, a subtle shift occurs. The world no longer appears entirely hostile. It becomes a mirror. not a perfect mirror, not always a comfortable one, but a reflective surface. You may begin to ask, what is this reaction protecting within me? Does this emotion belong only to the present, or does it carry older traces? Simply asking such questions begins to dissolve the force of projection. Recall a recent moment when you felt anger. Instead of seeing the other person as an enemy, imagine the image softening, not disappearing instantly, but becoming lighter, like a soap bubble. The bubble reflects many colors, yet inside it is hollow. When you touch it with awareness, it dissolves. Each hostile reaction may be such a bubble carrying imagery, but not the solid reality you believed it to be. You do not need to deny reality, but you can choose to reclaim your energy. Instead of pushing emotion outward, you bring it inward and observe. Your shoulders loosen slightly. Your chest no longer tightens. Your breath deepens. The world does not immediately change, but the way you see it does. When projection is recognized, you are no longer swept away by outer storms. You stand more firmly in your center. And something else happens when you stop projecting your inner images onto others. You begin to see them more clearly. They are no longer screens for your archetypes. They are human beings with their own stories. Peace does not come from eliminating conflict. It comes from no longer surrendering all power to the outside world. Hostile images begin to fade like soap bubbles under sunlight. They dissolve. They vanish. And beneath them remains space. Space to breathe. Space to understand. Space to rest. You are no longer fighting the world. You are learning to see yourself within it. And in that, seeing a new form of peace begins to form, not dependent on others, changing, but grounded in your having reclaimed your own light. Part 9. The Night Sea Journey. When you begin to reclaim your projections, when the world no longer appears entirely as an enemy, but becomes a mirror, a deeper shift quietly unfolds. Because the moment you stop fighting the outside, you are left with nowhere to hide from the inside. And then you may realize the true journey was never about other people. It has always been about moving through the dark waters within yourself. There are periods in life when everything seems to collapse at once. A relationship dissolves. A career turns unexpectedly. An illness appears. A loss arrives. Or perhaps there is simply the unbearable feeling that you can no longer continue living the way you once did. In those moments, you are not merely sad. You feel as if you are drowning, as though the surface of the water is closing above your head, and you no longer know which way is up. Jung referred to this symbol as the night sea journey, the voyage across the dark ocean. This image appears in the myths of many cultures. The hero must descend into the depths, be swallowed, dismembered, dissolved, before rebirth can occur. It is not punishment. It is initiation. In Jung wrote, "The experience of the self is always a defeat for the ego." See in II. The experience of the self is always a defeat for the ego. At first glance, this may sound harsh, yet it does not imply destruction. It suggests that when the ego, the familiar structure through which you define yourself, can no longer contain the fullness of your inner life, it must give way. And in that giving way, something larger begins to emerge. Crisis, then, is not merely tragedy. It is initiation, a rite of passage, a shedding of skin. Jung also wrote, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain." CW 8. There is no coming to consciousness without pain. Pain is not necessarily proof that you are on the wrong path. Sometimes it is the sign that you are crossing a threshold. Imagine yourself in the middle of an ocean at night. The water is black, no shore in sight, no solid ground beneath your feet. Your ego panics because it was built to control, to predict, to stabilize. But the ocean does not follow the ego's plan. When old structures fail, you may feel as though you are losing yourself. But what is dissolving may be only an outdated image of who you thought you were, not your deepest essence. In Symbols of Transformation, Jung emphasized that mythic images of death and rebirth reflect a genuine psychological process. The hero enters the darkness not to perish forever, but to become more expansive than before. To allow the ego to suffer does not mean you have failed. It may mean that the self the greater organizing center of the psyche is seeking expression. The self does not destroy the ego out of hostility. It simply exceeds it. When you are in the midst of crisis, this perspective can feel distant. Theory becomes fragile when you are submerged in pain. Yet if you look back upon your darkest chapters, you may notice something in those very moments. Something new was born. A different value. A different direction. A deeper understanding of yourself. The night sea. Journey is not something you volunteer for. It arrives when life pulls you away from the familiar shore. And here comes a gentle reassurance you are not truly drowning. Shift the image. Instead of struggling in black water, imagine yourself lying in a small boat. The boat is modest, but steady. The ocean remains dark, yet above you are stars. They do not illuminate the depths beneath you, but they remind you that the sky still exists. The ego wants to swim back to the old shore. It wants to regain control. But the self does not demand that you fight. It invites you to drift. In that drifting, you are not losing control. You are entering a different kind of trust. Let your shoulders soften a little more. Let your chest release its effort to stay afloat. Let your breath slow, like the rhythm of waves. You are not alone in this ocean. This voyage has been lived by millions of souls before you. It is a universal symbol of individuation. When you allow the ego to endure pain rather than rescuing it from every discomfort, you create space for the self to appear, not as lightning, but as a deeper, wider stillness. You may not immediately see the meaning of your crisis, but you can trust that it is not meaningless. The night sea is not an endless abyss. It is a passage. The boat beneath you does not require you to row. It only asks you to trust that you are not abandoned. The stars above are not loud. They simply remain a quiet presence of something greater than the frightened little ego. And as you lie there beneath the dark sky scattered with light, you may begin to realize you are not drowning. You are being restructured, not to become someone else, but to become a fuller version of yourself. The ocean is not swallowing you. It is carrying you. And within that invisible embrace, you may allow yourself to rest even in the middle of the night. See. Part 10. Active Imagination. The Inner Dialogue. When you have drifted across the night sea, when your small boat is no longer panicking in dark waves, but beginning to trust the stars. A new question slowly arises in that stillness. After this crisis, where do I go? For surviving the darkness does not automatically hand you a map. It simply brings you into a new space, wider, deeper, yet more ambiguous. And within that space, you may feel a subtle form of paralysis, standing at a crossroads in your life, unsure which path is truly yours. This is the pain of transition, no longer submerged in the old crisis, yet not fully shaped by the future. You may seek advice from others, ask friends, read books, listen to experts, but deep within you, sense that the answer does not entirely reside there. It lives at a deeper level, where the inner voice is still faint. Carl Jung did not advise relying solely on reason when facing the crucial turning points of life. He developed a method he called active imagination. In the transcendent function, he wrote, "The essential thing is to allow the images to emerge and to become conscious of them." CW8. The essential thing is to allow the images to emerge and to become conscious of them. Active imagination is not idle daydreaming. It is a conscious dialogue with the images arising from the unconscious. When the ego stops trying to control, when you allow symbols to surface, inner figures begin to speak. In the Red Book, Jung described his own encounters as genuine conversations with inner figures. He did not consider them pathological hallucinations, but expressions of archetypes seeking communication. He wrote, "The images of the unconscious place a great responsibility upon a man." The Red Book. The images of the unconscious place a great responsibility upon a person, because when they appear, you have a choice to ignore them or to listen. When you feel stuck before a difficult decision, it may be that the ego has reached its limit. Reason weighs pros and cons, yet your heart remains unsettled. Active imagination offers another path. Instead of forcing an answer, you enter an inner space and allow the answer to speak. Imagine stepping into a small theater within your mind. Quiet, no audience, gentle lighting. On the stage are not strangers, but archetypal figures, companions who have walked beside you since ancient times. Perhaps a wise old man appears, a symbol of deep insight. Perhaps a wounded child steps forward, carrying a truth you have avoided. Perhaps a wanderer stands there, reminding you that the road is not always straight. Jung believed these figures are not arbitrary creations of fantasy. They are archetypal structures seeking expression. When you dialogue with them, you are not deceiving yourself. You are creating a meeting point between consciousness and the unconscious. He wrote in 2 essays on analytical psychology. The dialogue with the unconscious is a moral effort. CW 7. Dialogue with the unconscious is a moral effort because it requires honesty. No embellishment, no avoidance. When you ask an inner figure a question, the essential task is not to control the answer, but to listen. The response may not arrive as a clear command. It may come as an image, a feeling, a symbol. Active imagination does not promise quick solutions, but it introduces a subtle transformation. You no longer feel isolated in your decision-making. You are not merely a solitary ego facing the future. You are the intersection of multiple layers of intelligence. Pause and notice your body. When you think about a difficult choice, where does tension appear? Where does something soften? Often the unconscious speaks through sensation before it speaks through words. In that inner theater, the wise old man does not shout instructions. He may simply look at you with calm eyes. And in that gaze, you may realize that peace does not come from knowing the future with certainty, but from trusting the process itself. You do not need to force an immediate choice. You may sit, breathe, observe the figure. Ask gently, what in me is seeking to live? When you do this, you are practicing what Jung described as the transcendent function, the reconciliation of opposites through symbol. Decision-making becomes more than calculation. It becomes a deeper response to the entirety of who you are. Imagine yourself seated in that inner theater. The chair is soft, the air warm, the lights gentle. The wise old man approaches unhurried. He does not hand you a detailed plan. He offers you a key. The key does not open an outer door. It opens an inner one where you trust your capacity for self-guidance. Your shoulders relax. Your breath deepens. Your heart slows. You are no longer trapped at a crossroads. You are participating in a living dialogue with yourself. Active imagination does not transform you into someone else. It reminds you that you were never truly alone within your own soul. And when you step out of that inner theater, the path ahead may not yet be perfectly clear. But you know one thing you can return whenever you need. You can ask. You can listen. You do not need to force the answer. You only need to create space for it to appear. In that relaxation, decision slowly ceases to feel like a burden. It becomes the natural next step of your journey, a step guided from within. Part 11. The center of the mandala. When you step into the inner theater, when you begin to listen as archetypal figures find their voice, when you have spoken with the wise old Ma or the wounded child, something very subtle begins to happen. You realize these figures do not exist to divide you. They do not arrive to seize control. They appear as pieces of a larger wholeness. And then, beneath all those voices, a deeper question rises. Is there a center within me? A place where every contradiction can be reconciled? Because human suffering is not only trauma, not only crisis, not only stagnation. It is also fragmentation. You may feel like you are many different people inside the same body. One part wants safety. Another wants adventure. One part forgives, another resents. One part loves, another turns cold. And when these parts pull you in different directions, you ask, who am I really? Carl Jung called the deepest center of this entire psychological structure the self, not the familiar ego, defined by identity, profession, and personal memories, but the principle of totality, the center and the circumference of the whole personality. In Ion, he wrote, "The self is not only the center, but also the whole circumference, which embraces both conscious and unconscious. It is the center of this totality." See Bodhiba NII. The self is not only the center, it is also the entire circumference that embraces both consciousness and the unconscious. This changes the way you view fragmentation. The conflicting parts within you are not proof that you are broken. They are expressions of a larger structure seeking balance. The ego is only a small point within that structure. When the ego tries to control everything, it becomes tense. But when it learns that it is not the whole, a kind of relaxation begins. Jung observed that during deep periods of transformation, people often dream of or draw mandalas, balanced symmetrical circles that express wholeness. He wrote, "The mandala is the psychological expression of the totality of the self." CW 9I. The mandala is the psychological expression of the self's totality. The circle is not accidental. Since ancient times, the circle has symbolized completion, the cosmos, the indivisible whole. When the psyche is shaken, the mandala appears as the unconscious's natural attempt to restore order. So when you feel pulled apart by many inner voices, the self may not be absent at all. It may be quietly arranging the pieces. Here is the comfort: you do not need to eliminate contradictory parts to become whole. You only need to return to the center. Imagine a vast mandala forming in your inner space. Along its outer edge are symbols: the persona, the shadow, the anima, the animus, memories, dreams, wounds. Each part has its place. Nothing must be erased. But at the very center, where every line converges, there is stillness. That is the self. The self does not argue, does not strain, does not prove. It simply is. Jung emphasized that individuation is not the construction of a perfect personality, but a movement toward this center. In 2 essays on analytical psychology, he wrote, "Individuation means becoming an individual. And insofar as individuality embraces our innermost last and incomparable uniqueness, it also implies becoming one's own self." CW7. Individuation means becoming an individual in the deepest sense, becoming one's own self. This does not mean conflict disappears instantly. But when you connect to the center, you are no longer torn apart. You begin to understand that contradictions are energies seeking harmony within a larger whole. Allow your body to soften now. Imagine you are standing at the rim of the mandala where symbols swirl. You take slow steps inward. Each step passes through a layer of emotion, a layer of memory, a layer of role. And then you reach the center. There is no noise there, no conflict, only absolute stillness. You do not need to define yourself. You do not need to choose one part and discard another. You simply melt into the center, like a drop of water falling into a quiet lake. The ego begins to soften, not destroyed, simply no longer struggling to be the whole. Your shoulders lower, your breath grows deep and even, your forehead smooths. The self does not force you to become someone else. It does not demand perfection. It only invites you to return. Return to the center, In the center of the mandala, you are no longer a collection of contradictions. You are the space in which they can coexist. Fragmentation dissolves, not because the parts vanish, but because they are held within a greater wholeness. And within that holding, you can rest. No need to fix yourself. No need to control everything. Only to be there, in the center, in stillness, in the self, where the circle closes and opposites are reconciled. Part 12. Dissolving into the ocean of shared being. When you have stepped into the center of the mandala, when fragmentation settles, and you sense a quiet center holding all opposites, one final question, silent yet profound, may arise. What happens when even that center dissolves? When the ego is no longer the point of reference? When this life itself comes to a close? For even if the self is the center and the circumference of the total psyche, the ego's deepest fear still lingers. Death, disappearance, the permanent dissolution of the individual. You may accept that you have a shadow. You may accept that you are not merely your persona. You may even accept that you participate in the collective unconscious. But when you contemplate no longer existing, a chill may move through you. This fear is not only biological instinct. It is the fear of losing the story of Mimi, losing memory, name, face, relationships. The ego trembles before the idea that it is not eternal. Carl Jung did not construct a rigid doctrine about life after death. He did not attempt to prove it through simple religious belief. But he regarded death as part of a larger psychological process. In Memories, Dreams, Reflections, he wrote, "Life has always seemed to me like a plant that lives on its rhizome. Its true life is invisible, hidden in the rhizome. Life is like a plant sustained by its rhizome. Its true life is invisible, hidden beneath the surface." This image soothes fear in a different way. What you call I may be like branches and leaves above the ground, appearing for a season, then falling away. But the rhizome remains. The living current continues. In the structure and dynamics of the psyche, Jung wrote, "The collective unconscious contains the whole spiritual heritage of mankind's evolution." CW8. If the collective unconscious holds so the entire spiritual heritage of human evolution, then the individual is not an isolated unit. You are a temporary expression of a deeper current. Individuation is not only becoming yourself within this lifetime, it is also realizing that the ego is not the ultimate center. Jung wrote again in Ion, "The self is not only the center, but also the whole circumference, which embraces both conscious and unconscious." CWCEI. When you live from the self, you no longer identify completely with the ego. And when the ego dissolves in sleep, in crisis, or finally in death, the self does not vanish. It belongs to a greater order. This does not deny fear. The fear of losing individuality is natural. Yet there is another way of seeing. Instead of viewing death as annihilation, you may see it as return. A return to the ocean. Throughout this journey, you have moved from persona to shadow, from anima to mandala. You have learned that you are not an isolated fragment. Now at the final threshold, you may imagine that the last boundary between me and the whole also softens. You do not fall into nothingness. You merge into the flow. Like a drop of water returning to the sea, it does not disappear. It becomes the ocean. Jung did not claim the individual is erased into meaninglessness. He suggested that the individual is a vehicle through which the whole expresses itself. And when the cycle closes, that expression is not lost. It is absorbed into a larger totality. Let this image settle gently within you. Your breath becomes lighter. There is no need to strain to exist. No need to cling tightly to your personal story. You are no longer a solitary entity struggling against the universe. You are a current within it. The impulse to protect myself at all costs begins to soften. The fear of disappearance is no longer a dark abyss. It becomes a doorway into a wider space. Within that space, you are no longer confined by name, role, or memory. You are part of a spiritual lineage that existed before you and will continue after you. Imagine yourself lying still. No effort required. No need to fully understand. Simply allow the idea to pass through you like a wave. You are not vanishing. You are returning. Like the rhizome hidden beneath the earth, Your life is not limited to its present form. It belongs to a deeper network. And as you exhale slowly, you may feel something very gentle. You do not need to hold yourself so tightly in order to exist. You have always belonged to this current, from beginning to crisis, from shadow to mandala, from ego to self. Now every circle closes within a larger circle. Your breath is barely there. Your body melts into the bed like an island resting upon the ocean floor. No resistance, no fear. You are not separate. You are part of a life that continues, and within that continuation, you may rest. You have come home.